All right, welcome back. So this is going to be the final of my little mini commentaries over some of my favorite projects for now. This one's I don't know how long this one's going to be, but it is a longer or is more videos to cover. I'm going to be covering four projects that I completely handled from pre-production through post for Wilson Tennis. One of which was a shoe commercial for the launch of their Rush Pro 9 or Rush Pro 3. I forget which number it was, but the Rush Pro series tennis shoe with one of their soccer stars, Jensen Brooksby, as well as the launch of their first ever docu series, more long form series called Release Valve, which was designed to essentially show how some of their star tennis players release pressure off the court, or release valve, so to speak. So what they enjoy doing off the court and to relieve the pressure of competition when they're not literally playing tennis professionally against the best players in the world. So these shoots were actually supposed to happen. The way it works, working with athletes and celebrities in general, most of the time you are very constrained within the amount of time you have with them on set. So for each of these that you're going to watch in this video, or that I'm going to be referring to in this video, we had these people for some of them like as little as 2+ hours to, on the long side, like 3 to 4 hours. Jensen's was the most complicated because of the number of shots that we had to get through, and the fact that I remember he got to set and he was going to eat too, so they actually counted the time he was eating. They gave us a little bit more time, but we lost some time because he had to have some lunch. And so we had a very limited amount of time. So there's a lot of setup, a lot of moving parts, or something like this. The crew was big. This was a project that I feel like I had everything I really needed in terms of I had the proper support from the company. A lot of times, like even if a budget is decent, you feel like you could have more in certain areas. I feel like Wilson Tennis really did it correctly here, and their approach with release valve and the shoe commercial was very much sort of like the Nike playbook, which was, we're going to make you care about our athletes, and therefore you will care about our products if you care about our athletes. So featured in these four videos, you have Jensen Brooksby, who at the time was probably 20. I don't know how old he was at that point, but he was ranked pretty high, and he was one of their up and coming prospects. And he was actually overperforming at the, I think it's called the Indian Wells tennis tournament, which is in California. Um, and so, just to tell you how it went down, we have the Miami Open tennis tournament that occurs here in South Florida every year in March, April time. And so, this particular tournament happens literally the week or two after Indian Wells, which is California's tournament. So this series, so to speak, was supposed to be filmed in that 3-day gap between those two tournaments. So that's another thing, is that you have that very tight window that these athletes are going to compete in this tournament like the next day. And that's the reason why it has to get filmed in such a short period of time. So we filmed 4 videos over the span of 3 days, and I like to always start sort of with my most complicated task most of the time, which was the shoe commercial, which you're going to see playing in the background here. Um, and for this commercial, we actually rented out the Crandon tennis court where the Miami Open used to happen. We rented out the whole stadium for the day to film there, and we did do a location scout. Me and my assistant director Bob, we actually started working on this project early because we had to pitch to them. This was a very heavy duty project. This was a big budget project, and we started filming, or not filming, but we started to work on this like December of the year prior, because we filmed this in the springtime. So in December, we actually went and did our prelim scouts, which, he's one of my best friends, and he's worked with me on countless projects, some of which you saw on the Puma commercial as well. He worked with me on that, and this was kind of an impromptu, no pay location scout, which is, you want those kind of friends, the ones who have skin in the game with you on your professional in your professional life, and they're also doing their thing too. So like, those are the people who you can call on to help you at times when you haven't necessarily landed that project. So we went and scouted out a few different tennis courts, and Crandon by far was top of the list of what we wanted. Now it is a bit run down, and we do not focus on it at all. But they really haven't taken care of the stadium very well over there. Like, if I had the chance, I would have had a day to pressure wash it and clean the walls and stuff like that. But we didn't have that much time nor that much budget to rent it out for a whole other day. So we did rent it out for the full day that we were filming. We got there pretty much at sunrise. The location scout, we essentially just went there with the whole crew, the DP, everybody. And this one was a little bit logistically challenging too, because the DP who I had hired got sick a couple days before the shoot. And so I had to replace the DP with someone he recommended, who was also a rock star and just one of the greatest people to work with throughout this entire shoot. And I had to catch him up to speed literally the day before the shoot, because I believe we filmed on a Sunday or a Monday for the shoe commercial. And all we did on that day was the shoe commercial. We got there at sunrise. The whole crew was going. This was a crew of like 25 people. We pre-lit everything, had all the shots pretty much, systematically ready. The cameras were set up. We shot on Aries, both cameras, Alexas or Alexa Minis. And then we had the FX3 for pickup shots that we used as well for some establishing shots that you might see in all four of these projects. And for the colorist who worked on this, it was pretty easy to match for her because they matched it up pretty well. Thankfully, the weather was very good, although it was very hot. Like the temperature on the court felt like 120 degrees at some points. So we did film the shoe commercial on day one. And the whole point of it was to focus on the shoes. They gave us like a million colorways. Wilson shipped us like a box full of shoes, and there was like blue, orange, all sorts of them. But we just used the black ones for the commercial piece. And the concept for the commercial is funny because I had an original concept for this, which was going to be very much mental warfare. Jensen conquering his own mental. You know, how they say like your number one rival is yourself, like overcoming like negative thinking and whatnot. So we were gonna have literally him simulating a tennis match in his mind. That's why when we start the commercial, he's not on he's walking out to the court and whatnot. And then we kind of get straight to it. We do have a longer version than this that goes into it more deeply. Like I have a minute version of this. That's my director's cut that I don't think I've put it anywhere yet, but this is more of the action pack, get straight to the chase and focus just on product mainly, which is what we did. And so the concept was for him to be playing against himself and then defeating himself in the final point. So that was the concept. We didn't actually run with that on the final edit. But then, funny enough, on a project I didn't do for them, the very similar concept was used for a different campaign. So I was like, I guess y'all did like it. I guess you guys did like it. So nonetheless, it was very product focused. Jensen was awesome to work with. One of the things you learn about working with tennis players in particular is that Jensen is sponsored by like a million different people. So the racket is one sponsor, the strings is another sponsor, the hat is a sponsor, the shirt, the socks, everything's a sponsor. So like every body part of these players is like a walking billboard for brands, and they maximize that for sure. So we were not to focus on anything but the shoes as much as possible. And that was the case of him here. So I think it turned out really good. It was a full day shoot. I remember getting back to the house and like just taking the coldest shower ever because of how hot it was outside. But it was this project stands above the rest for me in terms of how much of a joy it was to work with the crew. Like the crew was a vibe the whole time. It felt like a family on set. And that's the best feeling ever when you're collaborating with people and everybody's picking up their corner, and just doing a rock star job. You really, life doesn't get much better than that. So, the next 2 days were focused on the docuseries, which was really fun to film. A completely different shift up because you got to kind of, you plan it out, right? Like you have like a skeleton of what it's going to be, right? Of what the itinerary is for these players, which was like half sit down, half interview, but on the go with the activity itself. And so Stefano Tsitsipas was the third ranked male tennis player in the world at that point. And he loves luxury cars. So I went down to Prestige Imports Miami. Brett David, who owns the place, I know them through a mutual friend who's close with them. I didn't know him prior to this, but super stand-up guy, super down to earth. And one of the best, things about it was he made working in there super seamless. Like, he gave me pretty much full authority to move cars around. Not me literally driving the cars. He doesn't trust me that much, but having his staff move the cars around, just move everything around. He was super accommodating with it. And one of the things that you never take for granted, especially when you're directing, is that this guy was just good on camera. Okay. Okay, I have to pick up the recording from my phone because my webcam is malfunctioning now at the most inopportune time. But what I was saying about Brett David was he was, just a charismatic guy who could carry conversation. And so with Stefanos, what we wanted to do was this essentially like a 21 questions type of thing with one of the Wilson reps there. And so he went through and kind of just talked a little bit more about himself. And that was the whole point of this project, was for these athletes to get to see a different side of them than you see on the court necessarily. And so we took him through all the different cars that were in the dealership and all of that, which was just overall just a good time seeing him in there. Like, you see him in the Aston Martin. At one point, he gets into a Rolls Royce in another portion of the video. And it just was, spectacular. We set up one corner of the actual dealership so that you could see all the cars and the interview setup. And we sat down for like a little brief interview. He also got to see a new prototype of a Wilson tennis racket that he was going to start using. And funny enough, we filmed with Jensen Brooksby on the shoe commercial, and Jensen was not projected to do like incredibly well at the Indian Wells tennis tournament. Stefanos was supposed to take longer. So the shoe commercial was completely up in the air, and the concept almost had to change because Jensen almost made it to the finals over there, which would have overlapped with our shoot date that we had planned, which was a little scary when you have all these down payments out there and all these locations rented and you have crew booked and all this stuff. And, in production, you have something called a kill fee when you got to pay someone if a shoot gets canceled with not enough time to replace them. But anyways, moving on here, we did with Stefanos this whole shoot. Brett surprised him with the Pagani, and he was gonna let Stefanos drive it, but I don't think Stefanos had like a proper driver's license in the U.S. So they did not do that, but they did go for a joyride, which we were not prepped for. But we did take a minivan out there where we were filming in Miami, and we filmed them. We put a GoPro in the car, and then we filmed them from the side. And he was hauling ass in the Pagani to the point where like the handlers were a little bit concerned with what we were doing, but it was a great time. And he was mic'd up, and the mics held up pretty good because, like I said, for this particular project, we had a dedicated sound guy. We had, VTR, so we could monitor all the camera feeds at all time, and all these various things. So from there, on that day, we actually filmed 2 featurettes, which the second one was with Emma Raducanu, who she's a superstar, not just with tennis, but like with fashion brands. And she's a super recognizable face and probably one of the most popular tennis players in the world right now. And so we set up, thankfully there was one of the best sushi restaurants was across the street from the car dealership. And this guy, Chef B, that's his name, trained under Nobu. He used to work at Nobu's sushi restaurant. And so we set up something that Emma had never done before, was learn how to make sushi. And so we did a one-on-one sort of chef lesson with her and Chef B, where they made several different rolls, and she got to taste them, and her team was there and trying it at the same time as well. We actually commandeered my behind-the-scenes camera, and so we could get this Isle of Dogs Wes Anderson top-down shot that we used throughout, which I thought was a nice little touch to add to the production. And then meanwhile, while this is going on, we're doing like a little bit of an interview with Emma. And so thankfully this location was super close by, like literally across the street, so that we could not have to do a huge company move across and move all the equipment and reset up everything. Setup took a little bit of time, but it wasn't too extensive necessarily. Like, it was a pretty simple setup for what you'd usually do. And thankfully, Chef B, we were able to kind of just move everything around in the restaurant and do what we needed to do. So we knocked out both of these featurettes in one day. And then moving on towards the third one here, and I could probably talk more details about this. I really love the final shots because I love Chef's Table a lot. But I got so distracted with the camera stopping on this recording like 3 or 4 times that I had to stop. So the last one we did was for Riley Opelka, who's a big fashion guy and big on music and whatnot. And so we rented out Sweat Records in Miami, North Miami, for the day, which was the last day of filming of that particular week. And Riley's a local guy, so he just drove down to be there for the shoot. And earlier in the morning, all we did was I took a very small crew. We went to Crandon again to get some pickup shots, like establishing for the shoe commercial, since everybody was already booked for the day. It was just like maybe 6 of us out there, and we just kind of moved around and filmed things as we went. And the people over at Crandon were super chill about it. They didn't, I don't think they even, I don't know even know if they charged us for the extra day or not. I don't remember. But Riley's was fun, man. It was essentially like when the Complex sneaker shopping series that you see on YouTube. They essentially gave him like a blank check, like, hey, pick up as many records as you want and try to stay. I forget what the range was, but they were like, it was several $100s of damage he did in the place, and he was super chill, man. And also my the wardrobe, the guy who was in charge of wardrobe was geeking out because he was wearing some super like rare fashion combo or whatever. So very cool, very convenient location, and it already looks beautiful in the place itself. Like there's art murals on the wall and there's vinyls everywhere, and it's just a very aesthetically pleasing place to film. And the crew was pretty chill too. So one of the things you have to do when filming in most places like this is you have to give them a fee for closing down for the day of whatever it would be worth it to them to close up shop for the day. So it's usually a very fair agreement you can come to rent it out. And the way it goes is like you find these options of places to film in, and you pitch it to the client, and then they choose which one they want to do. And yeah, that's how it goes down. So we filmed those over a period of 3 days. Post-production took a couple months, mainly because of how long it took to get feedback. And then we released each video like over the span of like 3 months, so to speak. So in total, I think if we had to like really say heads down work, it probably took about a month to get them all done. And yeah, because one thing is picture lock. I worked with a separate colorist on this, who was a rock star on it, and she made it look beautiful. Actually, the footage that you're seeing right now is not from the final versions. This is the ones that I could find on hand without me having to go to my archives for it. So anyways, hope you enjoyed this series. I was expecting to go longer on the Wilson series, but the camera interruptions really interrupted my flow a bit. So I hope you enjoyed the one I did on Puma and the one I did on Autoform. And stay tuned for more content like this. And follow me on Contra Community. And make sure to join the Share Your Work Challenge, because it's a no-brainer. If you've done work that you're proud of, just submit it, and you have a chance of winning like $25,000. So go and do that. And until next time, peace.